In a small, secluded village nestled deep within a forest, there lived a young woman named Lyra. She was the daughter of the village healer, a woman renowned for her knowledge of herbs and potions, and Lyra had always been drawn to the mysterious and magical side of life. From a young age, she had watched her mother work with nature, calling upon the secrets of the earth to heal the sick and soothe the wounded. Lyra had learned everything her mother could teach her, but there was one secret her mother had kept hidden, a legend of a forbidden magic that could change the very fabric of life itself. One evening, as Lyra wandered through the forest collecting herbs, she stumbled upon a hidden glade. In the center of the glade stood an ancient tree, its gnarled branches reaching high into the sky, and its roots twisting deep into the earth. As she approached, a soft, shimmering light seemed to emanate from the tree, as if it was alive with some otherworldly energy. Drawn to the tree, Lyra reached out and touched its bark, and in that instant, the ground beneath her feet began to tremble. A voice echoed in her mind, deep and ancient. "You have awakened me, child," it said. "I am the guardian of the forest, and you are the one who has been chosen." Lyra stumbled back, her heart racing. She had heard the legends, of course, the stories of a powerful magic hidden within the forest, a magic that could grant immortality, control over the elements, or even the power to bring the dead back to life. But she had always thought them to be just that, legends. Yet here she was, standing before a living force of nature, a magic that seemed to defy the very laws of the world. The voice spoke again, this time more urgently. "You must decide, Lyra. There is a great danger that threatens the balance of the world, and you have been chosen to stop it. But the path you must walk is fraught with peril, and the price of your choices will be steep." Lyra's mind raced. What danger was the voice speaking of? What choices did she have to make? And what was the price of this magic she had awakened? The tree's voice seemed to grow quieter, as if it was fading into the distance. "You have the power within you, Lyra. But be warned, the magic you seek can corrupt, can twist even the noblest of hearts. Use it wisely, or it will consume you." Lyra's thoughts swirled. She was scared, but a part of her felt an undeniable pull toward the tree, toward the power that lay hidden within it. She had always dreamed of making a difference, of changing the world in ways that no one else could. And now, it seemed that the opportunity was in her grasp. But as the weeks passed, Lyra began to realize that the magic she had awakened was not a gift, but a curse. The more she used it, the more she felt its power consuming her, filling her with an insatiable hunger, a need to control and dominate the world around her. The magic began to change her, twisting her thoughts and emotions, until she could no longer recognize the girl she had once been. As the darkness of the magic took hold, Lyra became more isolated. She pushed away the people she had once loved, including her mother, who had warned her against meddling with such dangerous forces. But Lyra could no longer hear her mother's pleas. She was too far gone, consumed by the power she had once sought so desperately. One fateful night, as the full moon rose high in the sky, Lyra stood before the tree once again. The power of the forest surged through her veins, and she could feel the weight of the world pressing down on her shoulders. She had become the very thing she had feared, an embodiment of the magic that had once been her salvation, but now was her undoing. In that moment, the tree's voice spoke to her one last time. "You are lost, Lyra. The magic has claimed you, and there is no turning back." Lyra's heart shattered as she realized the truth of the voice's words. She had given up everything, her humanity, her love, her innocence, just to wield a power that had destroyed her from within. The world she had once dreamed of changing now seemed distant and unreachable. But as she stood there on the edge of her own destruction, a glimmer of hope stirred deep within her heart. For all the darkness the magic had brought, it had also taught her something invaluable, that true power lies not in control, but in love and sacrifice. And perhaps, even in her darkest moment, there was still a chance for redemption. With all the strength she had left, Lyra reached out to the tree once more. The magic surged around her, trying to pull her in, but she fought back with every ounce of willpower. She called out to the earth, to the forces of nature, to the people she had lost, and in that moment, the power of the forest responded. The tree began to glow brighter, its roots twisting and shifting as if it were alive. The magic, once so destructive, began to reverse, slowly unraveling the damage that had been done. Lyra felt the weight of the power lift from her shoulders, and for the first time in years, she felt free. But the cost was great. The magic, in all its raw power, had taken its toll. Lyra's body weakened, her strength ebbing away with each passing moment. The tree's voice echoed one last time, softer now, but filled with a sense of peace. "You have redeemed yourself, Lyra. The magic will no longer consume you." With a final, peaceful sigh, Lyra collapsed into the arms of the tree. The forest around her seemed to breathe in unison, as if mourning the loss of a soul, yet celebrating the redemption of a heart. Lyra's journey had ended, but her legacy would live on, whispered through the winds, carried by the roots of the tree, and remembered by those who would one day walk the same path she had. As Lyra's spirit mingled with the forest, something extraordinary happened. The once dead branches of the tree began to bloom with vibrant, glowing flowers. The air was thick with the scent of the forest, and the leaves rustled with a new energy, an energy of rebirth. The magic that had once been twisted and dark now radiated with life and balance. The tree had not only healed itself, but it had also absorbed the wisdom and sacrifice Lyra had made, becoming a beacon of hope for all who would come after her. In the distant village, whispers began to spread. The villagers spoke of a new dawn, of an inexplicable peace that seemed to settle over the land. The once dying plants and crops in the village flourished, and the sick began to recover. The healing properties of the forest, once thought to be a distant myth, were now undeniably real. It was as if Lyra's sacrifice had created a bridge between the magic of the earth and the hearts of the people. Over the years, stories of Lyra's bravery and the magic she had awakened became legends. Parents would tell their children of the healer who had saved the world, and the children would listen in awe, knowing that Lyra's journey was not just one of power and loss, but of love, redemption, and the ultimate sacrifice. The villagers began to make pilgrimages to the glade where the tree stood, hoping to feel the peace that had transformed the world. They would leave offerings of flowers, stones, and herbs, honoring the girl who had changed everything. But not all of Lyra's legacy was kept in stories. A new generation of healers emerged, young people who felt a deep connection to the earth and the magic Lyra had touched. Some of them had inherited Lyra's gift for understanding the forces of nature, while others were drawn to the ancient secrets of the forest. They began to practice the old ways, learning the balance of magic and life, and using their powers to heal, protect, and nurture the land. Among them was a young boy named Kale, who felt an inexplicable pull toward the forest, just as Lyra had once felt. He had grown up hearing the stories of the lost healer, and a part of him always knew that he was meant to be part of the ongoing story. One day, after years of training and study, Kale ventured into the forest, guided by a whisper in his heart. There, standing before the ancient tree, he felt a connection stronger than he had ever known. The tree's energy pulsed around him, as though it recognized him, and in that moment, he understood. The magic that Lyra had once unleashed was still alive, still protecting and guiding the world. Kale knelt before the tree, feeling its power surge through him. It was not a force to be feared, but one to be revered and respected. The legacy of Lyra was now his to carry, and he would be its protector, just as she had been. As Kale stood, the tree's voice whispered softly in his mind, the same voice Lyra had once heard. "You are the next to learn, Kale. The path you walk will not be easy, but like Lyra before you, you will be tested. Use the magic with love, with care, and with wisdom. Protect the balance, and you will find your place in the world." Kale nodded, a quiet resolve settling within him. He was ready to honor Lyra's legacy, to continue her work of healing, nurturing, and protecting the balance of life. And as he walked back to the village, he knew that the forest's magic would never fade, as long as there were those who would listen, who would care for it. Lyra's story, once a tragic tale of loss and redemption, had become a beacon of hope for future generations. Her legacy was not one of death, but of rebirth, a reminder that even in the darkest of times, there is always the possibility of light, of growth, and of love. And so, as the years turned to centuries, the village continued to thrive, protected by the magic Lyra had awakened. The ancient tree stood as a silent guardian, its branches reaching toward the sky, a living testament to the love, sacrifice, and courage of the young woman who had saved them all. In the heart of the forest, Lyra's spirit remained, woven into the very fabric of nature. The magic of the earth hummed with her presence, and the forest whispered her name with each passing breeze. She had become one with the world she had saved, and in doing so, she had given it the greatest gift of all, hope. As the centuries passed, the village grew into a thriving, peaceful community, its people living in harmony with the magic of the forest that Lyra had awakened. Generations of healers, caretakers, and protectors rose from the village, all guided by the ancient wisdom of the forest and the memory of Lyra's sacrifice. The legacy of her love, courage, and redemption endured, passed down through the stories told around the fires, in the songs sung by the elders, and in the very air that filled the hearts of the villagers. But as time went on, a new challenge emerged, one that had remained hidden for centuries, waiting for the right moment to reveal itself. In the farthest reaches of the kingdom, whispers of an ancient darkness began to stir. It was a force older than time itself, a force that had been banished long ago, but had never truly been destroyed. Now, it sought to return, to reclaim the world it had once ruled. This dark force, born of greed and malice, had been defeated in ancient times by a warrior who had wielded the very magic that Lyra had once awakened. But as the power of the forest had spread, so had the seeds of darkness, growing in the shadows, waiting for the perfect opportunity to rise again. It was then that Kale, now an elder and the protector of the ancient tree, began to sense a disturbance in the magic. The balance that had been so carefully maintained for centuries was starting to shift. The whispers of the forest, once full of warmth and life, now seemed tinged with sorrow, as though something was threatening to disrupt the harmony. Kale knew that the time had come for him to confront the darkness that threatened the world once again. The elders gathered, and the village was filled with a sense of urgency. Kale shared his fears with them, and they all agreed that the ancient darkness had returned, more powerful than ever. But there was a glimmer of hope. The magic that Lyra had awakened was still alive, still waiting for those who would listen. Kale, along with a group of trusted warriors and healers, embarked on a journey to uncover the source of the dark force and to protect the heart of the forest. As Kale ventured deeper into the forest, guided by the whispers of Lyra's spirit, he came to understand the true nature of the balance. It was not just a matter of magic, it was a matter of the heart. The darkness that threatened to overrun the world was born not from a lack of magic, but from the corruption of love itself. The greed, hatred, and fear that had taken root in the hearts of those who sought power over nature were the true cause of the imbalance. Kale and his companions journeyed through treacherous lands, facing trials that tested their resolve and their ability to hold on to the light in the face of overwhelming darkness. Along the way, they met others, lost souls who had been corrupted by the darkness, but who still held a flicker of hope within them. Kale knew that he could not defeat this darkness alone. It would take the strength of many hearts, united by love, to restore the balance once again. Yes, they neared the heart of the darkness. The ground trembled beneath their feet. The air grew thick with malice, and Kale could feel the weight of the ancient force pressing down on him. But he was not afraid. He had learned from Lyra's legacy that love and sacrifice were the most powerful forces in the world, stronger than any magic, stronger than any enemy. With his companions at his side, Kale stood tall, ready to face the darkness and protect the world that Lyra had saved. In the final confrontation, the battle between light and dark raged across the land. Kale called upon the magic of the forest, channeling the power that Lyra had once wielded. The ancient tree, still standing strong, lent its energy to the fight, its roots spreading across the land to heal the wounded and protect the innocent. The darkness fought back with everything it had, but it was no match for the unity and love that Kale and his companions shared. In the end, the darkness was defeated, not by brute force, but by the power of love and the strength of a united heart. The world was saved once again, and the balance was restored. As Kale stood amidst the ruins of the battle, he felt the presence of Lyra's spirit, watching over him. The forest, the tree, and the land were once again filled with peace, and Kale knew that Lyra's legacy had not only endured but had become the very foundation upon which the future would be built. The village, the forest, and the magic that had been awakened by Lyra's sacrifice would continue to thrive for generations to come. And as Kale looked toward the horizon, he knew that the story of Lyra, the healer who had saved the world, would live on forever, not as a legend, but as a living, breathing truth. Her love, her courage, and her sacrifice would always guide those who came after, reminding them that even in the darkest of times, the light of hope and love would never fade. As the years turned into decades, Kale's leadership shaped a new era for the village and the forest that had been so intertwined with Lyra's legacy. The once feared darkness had been vanquished, but the world had not forgotten the lessons it had learned. A new generation of villagers, young and eager to understand the magic of the earth, grew up under Kale's guidance. The ancient tree, now flourishing more than ever, continued to stand as a symbol of hope and unity. Its roots spread deep into the land, connecting the hearts of the people to the land they lived upon. However, Kale knew that peace, while a gift, was never guaranteed to last forever. The world was ever-changing, and even the most enduring legacies could be tested by time. As a wise elder, Kale began to sense that the harmony they had fought so hard to preserve was once again being disturbed. This time by something far more subtle than any external threat. Strange occurrences began to surface. Crops flourished, but in ways that seemed unnatural. Flowers bloomed in unusual patterns, and the animals of the forest began acting in strange, unsettling ways. Kale's connection with the land deepened, and he soon realized that the force that had caused this disturbance was neither evil nor chaotic, but an unfamiliar form of magic. Something that had long been dormant, waiting to awaken. One evening, as Kale sat beneath the boughs of the ancient tree, he felt a familiar presence brush against his soul. It was Lyra. Her spirit had been with him all along, guiding him in the moments of need. Her voice whispered to him once again, soft and full of wisdom, like the rustling of leaves in the wind. This new force, Lyra's voice said, is not to be feared, Kale. It is the awakening of a power older than even the forest itself. It is the magic of creation, the power of life before life itself. The realization came to him like a flash of light. This was not a new darkness, nor was it something to be conquered by force. It was the energy of birth, of endless cycles, life and death in perfect harmony. The disturbance Kale had sensed was simply the manifestation of a deeper connection between the land and its ancient magic. It was a sign that the forest, the land, and all of its creatures were about to evolve, to enter a new phase of existence. The challenge, Kale realized, would not be to stop this new power, but to understand it. To learn how to nurture it without disturbing the delicate balance that had been established. Lyra had passed on her legacy of wisdom and healing, and now it was Kale's turn to pass it on to those who would follow. Kale called upon the new generation of healers, those who had trained under his watchful eye. Together, they ventured into the forest, deep into the heart of the land where the magic was awakening. There, they found an ancient hidden grove, a place untouched by time. In the center of the grove stood a massive stone circle, its runes glowing faintly with the power of life itself. It was a place where the magic of creation flowed freely, unbound by the restrictions of the world. As Kale and his companions entered the grove, they felt a deep, primal connection to the earth. The air hummed with the pulse of life, and the land seemed to breathe with them. In that moment, Kale understood. This was not the magic of war, nor the magic of destruction. It was the magic of rebirth, the magic of the earth's eternal cycle. But as they meditated in the grove, an unsettling realization began to take root. The awakening of this power was not without its risks. If it were left unchecked, the magic could overwhelm the world, throwing the natural balance into chaos. The creatures of the forest, already affected by the strange occurrences, could become uncontrollable. The beauty of the land could transform into a maelstrom of endless creation, with no boundaries to hold it back. Once again, Kale and his companions would have to make a choice. Would they try to control this new force, locking it away as they had done with the darkness long ago? Or would they find a way to coexist with it, to allow it to grow and evolve alongside the land, without threatening the peace they had fought so hard to maintain? The answer came from Lyra's spirit once more, her voice calm and filled with an understanding that only those who had walked the path of true sacrifice could possess. True power, Lyra whispered, lies not in control but in harmony. Only by learning to live with the cycles of life and death, creation and destruction, can you truly restore balance. Protect the forest, protect the people, but also protect the magic. It is part of the land, as much as the trees and the rivers. Do not fight it, but understand it. Let it guide you, as I once did. With those words, Kale made his decision. The power of creation could not be suppressed, but it could be guided. He and his companions would not control the magic. Instead, they would learn to nurture it, to help it flourish in a way that complemented the natural balance of the world. They would protect the earth and all its creatures, but they would also allow for growth, for change, and for the magic of creation to live in harmony with all life. The work was not easy, and the journey would take time, but Kale knew that with the wisdom passed down from Lyra, and with the strength of his companions, the world could be protected once again. The land would evolve, and with it, so would the people. The magic would continue to flow, ever-changing, ever-growing, but always in balance. And so, as Kale and his companions worked to understand the new magic, they were guided by Lyra's legacy. The healer who had saved the world, not by fighting, but by loving and understanding the forces of nature. The forest, the people, and the magic would continue to thrive, not in a perfect, unchanging stasis, but in a dynamic living cycle of growth and rebirth.